Hello, and welcome back to A Wealthy Life, the podcast where I'm encouraging you to live, learn, and love your way through to a wealthy life filled with freedom, joy, and purpose. My name is Vicky Wachet, and I'm your host. And in this episode, we're going to be diving deep into some of the most powerful tools you will ever have at your disposal. Tools designed to help you shape your mindset. And in this period leading up to Christmas and getting us ready for the new year, giving yourself a chance to think in between all the chaos and the tinsel on your mindset is possibly one of the biggest gifts you can give yourself. So let me start by asking you this question. Do you believe that you can achieve anything you set your mind to? And if your answer is yes, maybe or maybe not even a chance, then this episode is going to be one that you really need to listen to. Over the next hour or so, I'm going to guide you through some of the biggest mindset shifts I've learned in the last 18 years of my coaching and personal transformation career, if you like, or life. These aren't just theories, they're actual lessons, some of which I have intuited for myself, some of which I have learnt from masters, if you like, that have literally changed my life, and they can change yours too. And we're going to start by challenging the roles and the labels that you've assigned yourself, those little boxes that both society and tradition love to squeeze us into. And then I'm going to take you through the thoughts in your head and ask you to consider whether they're your own or whether somebody else is in control of what you think and what you believe. And by the end of this episode, I want you to be able to walk through the exact steps that you need to build a wealthy life and a wealthy mindset and prepare you to absolutely crush your goals in 2025 and beyond. Now, this isn't going to be a quick fix. It's not about perfection. It's about taking back your power, if you like, one thought, one decision at a time. So if you're at home, grab yourself a cup of coffee. And if you're going to go out for a walk, get those walking boots on ready, because this is some time to focus on you and what you want to achieve in your life and in the next 12 months ahead. So let's get started by taking you on a journey to a wealthy life through mastering your mindset. Hello. So in this episode, we're going to be diving into a special compilation episode. I've gone through the 150 odd episodes that I've created up until now and highlighted and pulled out some of the most powerful lessons that I believe will help you towards a healthy and wealthy mindset. And I want to start with a story that I think I first shared in episode 49, and you can go and listen to it for yourself if you want. And even if you've heard it before, I think it's too important not to revisit. So my true awakening, if you want to refer to it like that way, to the power of the mind happened through an actual practical hypnosis exercise that I was going through as part of the training for me to become qualified as a hypnotherapist. And before I did the exercise, I have to say, I believe that hypnosis only worked if the subject actually wanted to participate wholeheartedly. And you're right, someone has to genuinely want to change for hypnosis to be effective. If you want to stop smoking, hypnosis can help. But if the doubts creep in, like, yes, I want to quit, but I've tried it before and it never worked, you're starting to set up that limiting belief. And if that limiting belief is stronger than your belief in the process and your ability to succeed at stopping smoking, well, guess what happens? Your doubts will win and hypnosis will fail. So, as I said, I was already open to the idea of hypnosis. I think it's part of the training. They'd already proved, in a way, that it could work. And I wanted it to work for me. You know, I'm competitive, but I'm also an obsessively good student. So this exercise that we were supposed to be going through involved being suspended. You know, like those magic tricks they do. 2 chairs. My head was going to be supported on one chair, my heels supported on the other, and there was going to be nothing in the middle except the weight of my bottom. There it came. Did you hear it? How could I possibly stay up? Well, obviously, I'm going to just cut a long story short, and you can go and listen to the whole story, as I said, in episode 49. I nailed it. I was induced into a trance, and gosh, I can still feel it. I can still feel it now. I can evoke that thought of them putting me into the trance. And they put me into a trance, and they suspended me. They tilted me back and then suspended me between these two chairs. And there I stood, lay, suspended for a couple of minutes. And when I then got back up again, I was absolutely thrilled. Not only had I stayed, stiff and rigid was the phrase that we used, to be tilted backwards, which is quite a terrifying experience, suspended, and then the process reversed. I'm absolutely goosebumpy now just thinking about it. I entered that trance and my thoughts were laser focused on that task in hand, on succeeding, on drowning out the worries about the weight of my bottom. I wanted to be suspended between those two chairs. And that's a metaphor for what I want for you. What I'm aiming to do through this podcast and through this specific compilation of key lessons about how your mindset can be trained to support your success is show you how you can harness the power of thinking and achieve anything that you set your mind to drown out the doubts, to focus on the success. Since that pivotal day for me in 2008, I've held the belief that I can achieve or become anything I set my mind to. The exact sentence I use is, I can do or be anything I set my mind to, but I thought I need to say it the proper way round. I can do or be anything I set my mind to, or I can achieve and become anything I set my mind to. If I miss that goal, and it does happen occasionally where I set my mind to something and I don't achieve it, I firmly hold another belief, which is, goodness, the reason I missed that goal, not that I failed, that I missed that goal, is because there must be other thoughts blocking my way. And then my job is to identify those thoughts and address either the concern that I have, to explain to my own mind why the thoughts that I have aren't relevant or incorrect. And there's a fine difference here, okay? A fine difference, because some barriers can be due to a lack of information. So I want to achieve this and I don't manage to achieve it. And the real reason I didn't achieve it is because I didn't have the skills or the knowledge needed for my mind to be able to follow through and do that, both consciously or unconsciously. I have to be comfortable with the decision that I'm taking, and a lack of information can cause discomfort. The other reason could be that I missed my goal, not because I didn't have the information or the education to achieve it, but because there were some old myths or some old values, programming, if you like, mistakenly running in the background that were doing their best to protect me. So you need to sort of understand, why did I miss the goal? Was it because I didn't know enough, or because there was something holding me back? Now, I hold the belief I can do or be anything I set my mind to. And I hold the second belief that if I miss a goal, it's because there's a piece more information that's needed. Now, I will say there's one step further there, that sometimes when I get that extra information, when I realize that what was missing was some knowledge, and I get that extra knowledge, I might choose my mind to recreate that goal into something better. So you can always do that as you learn more. You can reshape that goal to be maybe more crystallized, or maybe more efficient, or more achievable. And what I'm going to do in this compilation episode is curate a series of very specifically ordered podcasts to help you develop your thinking and, I suppose, grow your understanding of how your mind works without having to do an NLP course. First, I'm going to start by breaking down the stereotypes and the pressures that we all impose on ourselves. And I was really fortunate to have my thinking challenged much earlier on when I became a single mum, as you know, to my two daughters. Those stereotypes just didn't fit for me. And then what I want to do is take you on a level and get you to challenge your thinking, to push you to question the thoughts in your head, to hear that thought and go, is that supportive? Or is that actually a thought given to me by somebody else? Is that a thought given to me by my parents or society, or potentially even some very clever marketeers? And when we've gone through that whole journey, I'm going to take you one step further and I'm going to ask you, what is the cost of failing this game? I'm going to get you to create that wealthy mindset and then think like a winner. Be prepared to achieve anything you set your mind to. And then we're going to move into that phase where we're learning, living and loving that wealthy life, a wealthy life where choice and freedom is yours to embrace. So throughout this compilation, you're going to find actionable insights as I share them with you, practical strategies, and I'm going to refer you to past podcasts where you can delve deeper into specific topics so that you can essentially master your own mind. Now, whether you're looking to break free from any limiting beliefs or whether you're looking to set and achieve ambitious goals, or I suppose simply just live a more fulfilling life, the lessons are here in this episode, this compilation designed to help you every step of the way. So if you're not out walking and you are just at home with that cup of coffee, why not sit back, relax? You might want to have a pen and paper by the side so you can make a note of anything that you want to follow up on. And let's start this journey together. Let's harness the power of your mind and create a wealthy life, one you've always dreamed of. Can I please remind you to subscribe and leave a review for this podcast? And maybe even share it with someone who you believe is ready to transform their mindset and their lives. Sharing this sort of information is the way that we can create a wealthy life for all. Thank you very much. Let me start with quite a loaded question. Do you believe you can achieve anything you set your mind to? It's a very specifically worded question. Do you have the belief that you could achieve anything you set your mind to? So your mind is here and you are going to set it, decide, if you like, that you are going to achieve something. Do you have that belief? And then depending on who you are and where you are and maybe even the time we're in at the moment, your answer will fall somewhere along a spectrum. Maybe you're a bit doubtful. Maybe you're burdened with a nagging inner voice telling you, no, you could never achieve that. Maybe that's the voice of a family member. Maybe that's the voice of a teacher, something lurking in the background. And if that is the case, remember that in the Wealthy Life community, and you'll see the link in the show notes, in the resources section is the values manual. And I've recommended that to you so many times now. Really go and do that piece of work because that could be the bit that resolves this for you. Success lies in uncovering those unresolved questions, those limiting beliefs that are holding you back. Now, of course, maybe your answer is somewhere in the middle. Well, I'm open to the idea, but I'm a bit nervous. I'm just not sure if I can. I'm willing to give it a go, but I'm just not sure if I can. Now, guess what? The solution's still going to be the same. A doubt is a doubt, no matter whether it's big or small. It still requires an answer. But maybe now you might not have a nagging inner voice. Maybe you might have a feeling in your stomach, that nervous energy. And what we're talking about now is that you're about to do something new and your mind, your unconscious mind is saying to you, hold on, do you have all the information you need? Have you got all the resources lined up? Do you absolutely know what you're doing? Is this going to be a risk to you? It's sending all of those questions through, maybe not as a voice, maybe not as something that you can hear, but something that you can feel. So still, you've got the values work, but also you might want to consider doing a writing exercise where what you're saying to yourself is, I want to achieve this. What could hold me back? And then see if you get something come up in that writing. And then, of course, there's going to be loads of you that turn around with, yes, I absolutely know what I want to achieve, and I'm very definitely going to achieve it. And I could be a bit cheeky here and say that's probably because we've just started working together, or it's just before we're about to start working together, and you're there, you're in the right frame of mind. And I bet you anything, you've done the values work. So what I want to do with this episode is become, if you like, a training ground for your mind, a way to prepare you to achieve anything you set your heart on in 2025 and beyond, right? So we're going to go through this step by step. That was that first question. Do you believe you can achieve anything you send your mind to? If the answer is yes, great, let's keep going. If the answer is no, and you haven't done the values work, please go and do the values work. And of course, if you're still stuck on this at the end of it and you just feel like, well, I've done the values work and I've done everything Vicky said, I've listened to episode 49 already, and I'm still not sure, book a call. That's why I'm here. So let's start moving through these steps. Basically, each step I'm going to take you through has got a number of podcasts within it that I'm going to highlight. And I'm going to explain a little bit about, I suppose, the lesson in each. And then if it's one you've not listened to, or one that you've not really understood, or one that you can't remember, you can go back and listen to these again. So right back at the beginning, when I first started this podcast over 2.5 years ago, I often heard clients, especially men and occasionally high earning women, express the belief that financial responsibility for the family rested solely on their shoulders, that it was their responsibility alone. And what I want to challenge in this step is that we need to rethink our roles in life, in love, in work, because that level of pressure breeds stress. And I think really a disconnection. You become so focused on, so laser-like on this mission that you have set for yourself, that actually what you don't notice is that the other partner in your relationship is often stressed as well, but for an entirely different reason. They're stressed because they don't know what's going on in the financing. They don't know their role in the decision making because you've put a big ring around it and said, it's my responsibility. Darling, you don't need to worry about it. I'm dealing with it. You're under pressure and they are stressed. So we really need to loosen up on these stereotypes of the potentially male financial provider and the potentially female nurturer. It tends to be a bit in that mother-father role, but, it can also be down to the jobs, the careers that you're in. And this is why the very first 2 episodes that I ever recorded, episode 1 and 2, started to unpack how these roles, mostly self-imposed, occasionally inherited from your parents' society or culture, are an unnecessary burden. The stereotype and sayings like men must provide and women must take care have not served us well until now. And breaking free of those stereotypes starts with actually recognizing that it is a constraint on your happiness and a constraint on the quality of your relationship. If it's stressed, it's going to be much harder to have an empowering relationship with one another. So what about this question? Let's move forward one. What would you do if you never had to work another day in your life just to pay the bills? So instead of being burdened by fictitious roles, we're now going to think more positively. What would you do if you didn't have to work? It's the complete flip of a script that society has given us. So instead of asking the questions of yourself, and you may be doing this to your children, what do you want to do or what do you want to be when you grow up? What if we could have asked ourselves, how do I want to live my life? What truly matters to me? And what if this shift from doing to being was so transformative, not linear, transformative, that any negative relationships, responsibilities, ambitions, anything that we've assumed in the past, we actually parked and started to think, is this what I really want? And you know what? It's not selfish to put your financial well-being first. In fact, ensuring your own financial security is one of the greatest gifts you could give your children and your loved ones. If, as a parent now, you are financially resilient, financially secure, because you put yourself first, you'll be able to provide for your children long into the future. If you provide for yourself in your middle years and your later years, you will not become a financial burden on your children or other loved ones. And you can start to delve deeper into this topic in episode 3. Those first 3 were quite dropped everything on you just in those early days. Because in episode 3, what I'm asking you to do is challenge the roles that society has cast you in. So, what if you could do or be anything you want? What if you didn't have to go to work just to pay the bills? You could focus on what truly mattered to you. What difference might that make in your life? And I took this one step further when I got to episode 20, because there I was exploring the idea of family first while carving out a space for your personal needs. How do you balance, particularly if you're a parent, wanting to take care of your children, but you've got to take care of yourself, or you'll have no energy left to take care of anybody else. It's that old adage of putting your own mask on first, and then you can save everybody else on the plane. How do you find that balance? And if it's not about children, it might be about your partner. It could be about going up a level to your parents. It could be your siblings. It could be friends. It might be a passion that you're interested in. But in episode 20, I'm challenging you to put yourself first for the sake of your family. So when you put that all together, don't take what you were given as gospel, that you don't have to take on these fictitious roles and cope with it all on your own. And if you start to change the thinking of what would you like to do instead of what would you like to be, you can then open up the idea of, well, what would I do if I didn't work just to pay the bills? And as you start to play with this, and of course, we'll pick this up next week when, surprise, surprise, we're going to do a compilation on the financial mindset side of things. You're then going to be a bit more open to the idea of breaking through these societal roles, maybe even breaking through the idea of putting your family first and creating a plan that is supportive of you. And your mindset is supportive of the plan, which is supportive of your mindset. And that takes us to a new question. So here in the next step, we really want to be thinking about, well, who's in charge of your thoughts? Some people will refer to this as an inner voice. Some people will refer to it as a limiting belief. Whatever you think of it, it's that moment when you are about to do something potentially new, possibly a little bit challenging, where whether you hear it as a voice or, as I mentioned, you might even feel it in your stomach, you get a doubt. That's what the voice is. Most of the time, the voice is a doubt. Because if you're being successful, then you don't need the voice there to make you concerned. So now what we have to ask you is, are those thoughts genuinely supportive of your goals? Sometimes they are, sometimes they aren't. Or are they actually a reflection of what's going on in society? Maybe in your history, maybe from school, from your family, but it could also be more recently from advertising and marketing. It's a very broad generalization, okay? But there are times in our lives when we're so focused on the acquisition of belongings, whether it's your home and furniture for the home, or whether it's essentials to luxuries. You're so caught up in that have you ever stopped to ask yourself, who told me I needed this stuff in my life? And if you then go back and put that with the first question I asked you of, how do you want to be? not what you want to do. What do you want to be? Sorry, how do you want to be, not what you want to have? If you want to be free, if you want to travel the world, then is buying loads of stuff that you have to keep leaving behind in order to travel away, in order to come back and get it out of storage, actually a good set of thoughts? Or are the thoughts about all this stuff you need to buy really very clever marketing tricks? And then one more question for you. Have you ever thought that all of your possessions, just look round wherever you are. This won't work if you're at work, of course, because they're not your possessions. But if you're at home, look round what you've got in your house. What can you see in your room? Everything that you can see in your room is a unit of time. How much did that cost? Right? £100. How much do you earn an hour? £50 an hour. Just making the maths nice. That would be lovely. £50 an hour. That cost me 2 hours to buy that thing. What about that thing over there? That cost me 4 hours, 6 hours, 10 hours. All of this stuff around you is actually time. Every possession you acquire costs you time, whether it's your car, your handbag, your massive TV. And that is time that you had to spend away from your loved ones, or potentially just your passions. You're working to earn this stuff. Now, if this stuff gives you joy, there is some stuff in my life that gives me joy. You might have heard of my Tomangerie, the giant greenhouse that we bought this year. It gives me joy. I feel at peace when I go in there. It's the place where I can play with my tomatoes and my cuttings. And yes, it cost me a lot of money, and that cost me time to earn that money. But I have that much joy and longevity out of it that I was prepared to make that decision, because I do. I think about things that I'm going to buy, and I think about how long will I have to work to effectively replace the savings that I'm going to use in order to buy this thing? Or how long am I going to have to work in order to earn the money to pay the credit card bill that I bought this thing on? So you really need to start thinking about, is this stuff giving me enough joy that I am prepared to spend time away from the people I love or the things that I love doing in order to acquire this thing? If the answer is yes, then great, it's been a good decision to buy it. And if it's not, then that's where I really want you to start thinking about this. And I take this a step further in episode 7. So if you're stuck in the cycle of buying stuff, and it can sometimes be because you feel there's a gap in your life, that you feel you're missing out, you really need to be aware of what a dangerous path this can be, because it pulls your focus away from gratitude. It magnifies sometimes what you don't have, and then you want to buy more. To really consider this whole process of buying stuff, this conscious or unconscious purchasing that can be going on. And if you want to look more into the whole idea of gratitude and understanding, focusing on the gaps or focusing on the gratitude instead, which is really the two ends of the spectrum, episode 12 will take you through that, where you can find sometimes that the gaps can drown out the gratitude, and that's not a good place to be. So I'm asking you this question of who's controlling your thoughts, and I take that into episodes 31 and then 27. So you can see how I'm putting them in the right order for you to listen to now. To think through, first, are you the architect of your own mindset? Are you the one in control of your actions, your success? Or are you allowing those marketeers and social media, and then again, potentially even excuses, which is where episode 27 comes in, to dictate your choices? Or are you the one in control? And I just want to make it clear here, this is not a step that is asking you to think about your thoughts in order to get you to blame yourself or feel guilty. I'm not blaming you. I'm not saying you've done it wrong. This is about clarity. It's a bit like I need to wear glasses. So when I don't wear them, everything's a little fuzzy. I'm asking you to put the glasses on to get that focus so you can sort of see through more clearly about how you can live the life that you want. That if you don't get caught in these unconscious consumerism traps where we're told to buy things, these master marketeers trained to manipulate your every decision, and you get to a stage where you can see through that as an illusion and regain control, then you can be in a position where you get more time to spend with those you love, because you're either spending less, so you accumulate more savings, which means you can move into investing, or you're not having to work extra in order to pay for things that really don't bring you any joy. And in the winter now, there is an episode on Netflix called Buy Now. I don't know how long that'll stay available because they put them on and they put them off, but have a look for a Netflix documentary called Buy Now. It's a quirky but very eye-opening perspective on how we're all being manipulated to buy more. It was quite shocking when I watched it. So to finish off this idea between conscious and unconscious consumerism, when you can start to see through all this noise, you can start to ask better questions. And then you can start to focus on framing your thoughts and your thought process in a way that's constructive and positive. And I explain this more in episode 21. So in this section here, there have been quite a few podcasts that I'm suggesting that you have a listen to, from episode 7 and 12, where we're talking about the time that your possessions cost you, to episodes 31 and 27, where we're talking about controlling your thoughts, and then moving on to episode 21, where you can actually reframe those thoughts into a more constructive and positive way of thinking that will support you to achieve the life you want. Let's move on to the third step. There's one more after this. This third step is about accepting challenges and redefining success. Because I think it's a truth, life doesn't always align with our expectations. Sometimes you plan something, it doesn't come off quite the way you thought. Maybe it comes off better, maybe it comes off less good. But success itself comes from the ability to embrace a version of reality that, while guiding yourself through life, you can make meaningful changes to help you achieve what you want. So it's not linear. Success isn't something that we say, there it is, that's what I'm going to achieve. That's all you focus on, nothing else. Now, I did say earlier that you do need to focus on it, yes, but not to the exclusion of all fun, not to the exclusion of people who matter to you. But you set out this goal, this idea that you want to achieve, and on the way, you may get help from your unconscious saying to you, hey, I don't think you know quite enough about that. Do a bit more research. Don't procrastinate, but just do a bit more research and then you'll be able to achieve this better. And it's been a positive support for you. Sometimes you might find that the little voice is dragging you back and going, don't do that. I'm scared, effectively. Don't do that, because what if you fail? Wow. I don't know what's worse than failing. Yes, I do. You know what's worse than failing? Never attempting in the first place. And in episode 94, so we've jumped quite a few forward, I talk about the challenges of not meeting your expectations and how to process disappointment constructively. And I started that way back at the beginning and said to you, this is not about blame. This is not about failing. Sometimes you just miss a goal. And in shorthand, what I really want you to do is not get bogged down in the gloom. but to stay anchored and focused on the belief that you can literally be or do anything that you set your mind to. And if it's not working, there is a reason, that second level of belief. There's a bit of information missing. The information is either around education, so you actually genuinely don't know something to help you get there, or it's an awareness that you are missing, that you're being held back by something that is not supportive for you. It might have been something that was supportive for you when you were a child or when you were a teenager, but not now. So think about that. And then what I want to do is come back to episode 42. And here I started examining the risk of, well, what if we just carry on as we are? I mean, Vicky, all this mindset stuff, and I've got to retrain my mind and be aware of my inner voice and set goals. And then I might not achieve the goals, and the goals might be because I'm stuck in a societal role that I'm not even aware of. What if I just forget all of that? What if I just ignore my deeper desires and the goals? There is a saying that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again while expecting different results. And the fact that you're here, the fact that you've subscribed to this podcast, the fact that you're listening to me now, still half an hour after I started, means that you do want something. You do want something different. You wouldn't be listening. You wouldn't even be aware of this podcast. You wouldn't have found it. And if somebody had told you about it, you wouldn't have listened to it unless you want something more in your life or something different in your life. Slightly different words mean different things to different people. So here's my challenge for you. Decide for yourself. What do you want? Are you willing to pursue it? Are you willing to put in the work? Now, remember, the work isn't digging. It's clearing your head so that your mind, which is designed to keep you alive and to keep you safe, recognizes that what goal you have set, that goal that you have set, is there to bring you more joy, to make you more happy, to make you love life more, live longer if necessary. And you have to sometimes teach your mind that it's okay. And I talk about this a lot more in episode 44. So let's just wrap up this particular step and ask you the question, well, what does a wealthy life mean to you? And I think I use the words this way round so that every single person on the planet can have a wealthy life. But that wealthy life will be different to mine, to yours, to your next door neighbors. It's your unique vision of wealth, not just the financials, but the emotional, the physicals, the spiritual. It's the practice, if you like, of journaling, going through that journaling in the morning and in the evening, doing your gratitude exercises as a way to reframe and retrain your thoughts, the ones that history, that society, that potentially your parents or school infused into you, to retrain your thoughts so that you can move towards or closer towards the ideal life that you want to live. You can't move towards it unless you get some sense of what it means to you. So if you listen to episodes 89 and then to 96, first you're going to go through that conversation of, well, what does a wealthy life mean to me? That's episode 89. And then actually start to go, well, hold on a second. If I then do both either journaling or I do morning and evening gratitude, remember the 3:33 alarm, that these exercises can start to help me see through the myths that are out there, help me to focus my thinking, train my mind into understanding the modern world that I'm living in and the goals that I want to achieve, and start to drown out or answer and resolve any limiting beliefs, negative thoughts that are there. You can retrain your thoughts. I very, very, very rarely get a negative thought or the little voice pop up. Yes, it is very noisy inside this head, but it's usually with creative ideas, thoughts, things that I can create deals that I can work out. I was inventing a new product in my sleep last night. That's what's going on in my head, not words like, you're rubbish at this, you're never going to succeed, you couldn't do that, you're bound to fail, you don't want that anyway, you want this. I don't get any of that going on. And when on the rare occasion I do get a little voice appear, it's usually because I'm about to make a big new step. And what's happening here is it's going, Vicky, do you have all the information you need? Do you have the knowledge and the skills that you need? Do you have the data that you need? Do you have access to the resources you need? And as long as I can go through and answer all of those, I don't get that voice. But as I say, occasionally, I forget to answer those questions in advance. And the voice pops up and goes, double check everything. And I go, yes, tick, 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 tick. I've done it. Thank you for reminding me. And I'm always grateful. Thank you for reminding me. Thank you for bringing forward that worry that you had. Here's your answer. Here's your reassurance. I know what I'm doing. I'm focusing on a wealthy life. And if it turned out that maybe there was a piece of information missing, then I would be even more grateful that my mind had raised it. But it's not the dominant noise going on for me anymore. The dominant noise is gratitude, positivity, creativity. And that's a much nicer place to live. I remember what it was like to live in a head that was full of doubts. And there's a great song. Shall I sing it to you? No, I won't put you through that. Bing Crosby, if you ever remember the Rat Pack. So Bing Crosby did a song with, I think there were three of them, called the Andrew Sisters, three girls called the Andrew Sisters. And this would have been maybe 60s, maybe 70s. I forgot to look at the dates for you, actually. And the song is, you've got to accentuate the positive, eliminate the negative, latch on to the affirmative, and don't mess with Mr. In Between. So I nearly sang it there for you. I'm sorry if you're totally traumatized. I'll put a link in the show notes so you can go and listen to Bing do it. But that's it, isn't it, really? If we accentuate the positive and we eliminate the negative, then we're going to be successful. And yeah, maybe you'll learn to sing it better than I can. But that song just popped into my head as I was working on this for you. And then the last step. This is about a happy calendar and success on your term. And that's actually what I was dreaming about last night. Can I find a way to create a happy calendar for you? So I've done podcasts on this. I think episode 34 is where I first introduce it, but it might have come in a bit earlier as well. And this starts with the premise of, if you had a completely blank sheet of paper, there you are at whatever age you are now, but you've got a time machine so you can wander up and down the timeline whenever you want. And I say to you, what is it that makes you jump out of bed with joy? And you can answer that. Marvelous. And then I'd say to you, so show me your calendar for the year. Where is your joy booked into your calendar so you can do your joy? So is your joy fishing? Is it sailing? Is it painting? Is it music? Is it growing tomatoes? Is it being with your children, your grandchildren, your parents? Is it traveling? Where is your joy? And it doesn't have to be one thing. Where is your joy? And if it's not in your calendar, if it's not planned in for the rest of your year, what are you doing? What are you doing? So the happy calendar is a simple and yet, I think, really profound exercise designed to deliberately put joy diarized into your life. And I love this exercise. Oh, goodness, I don't know how long I've been doing this. At least pre-COVID, but I can't remember exactly when. And I love a big wall planner. And I get my big wall planner and, it's all curled up. You've got to pin it down in the corners. And I love the sticky dots. And I've got lots and lots of sticky dots. And I pick a color. It's most often red because it really sort of stands out, the red. And with the red dots, the first thing I do is I go around and I stick on all the birthdays and all the anniversaries and Christmas and Easter and the bank holidays, because those are times when we're either going to get together as a family or we're going to do something. So they're easy. The bigger your family, the more dots you have. But then what you want to look at is, well, let me look at January. What is going on in January? So we have one birthday in our family in January. Great. Anything else? No. And that's sort of like a month where I want a bit more joy. So I think to myself, well, can I schedule in a 3-day weekend? Is there somewhere I can go, have a little break? Is there someone I can go and visit? Actually, what I've done this year is I've booked in a 2-week holiday, but that's a whole nother story. What can I do in January to boost, to supercharge the year by having some joy in it? We made this plan a couple of years ago that we were always going to start January, start the new year with sunshine. I know people like to ski, but I just wanted to feel hot, to feel the heat and the sun. And so this is why we tend to go away in January. What do you like? What do you love doing? What could you do in January that you can book into your diary now, get out your little red stickers and put them in there and then write what it is? Great. Now we move to February. What's in February? Well, you can do Valentine's Day. I can't remember if we've got any. I don't think we have any birthdays in February. So there's Valentine's. That's great. Now, depending where Valentine's falls, do you want to make a long weekend of it? Do you want to go out for a meal with your partner? Is that enough joy in February for you? And if it's not, put some more in. And the idea is that you fill up this calendar, and you're doing this in November, December. You're planning out next year with the joy and the happiness first. Then what you're going to do is fill in around all this red pen and red dots the rest of your life. You're going to fill in when you're going to work, or when you're going to do a property deal, or when you're going to do this, or when you're going to do that, and you map it out. But you start with the happy first. Now, I introduce this and I take it out over 3 episodes. So I think it's first talked about and first mapped out for you in episode 34. And then I go and continue the process in 35 and 36. But 34 is the essential one. And then look at 35 and 36 if you've got time. So that's the happy calendar. That is rethinking your life about what do you want to be doing, not what job title you've got, not how much you want to earn. Yes, you're going to need to earn money in order to do all the happy stuff that you want. You might put in concerts or comedy shows or gardening shows, or, like I say, holidays and birthdays and everything else. Some of those things will be free. And what you might like to do is, if you love going for a walk, is that you'll go somewhere every Saturday morning. You'll go for a walk. So every Saturday morning can have a red dot on it. You imagine if you looked at that calendar on the wall and it was literally filled with 52 red dots. That would be incredible. 52 red dots of absolute joy in your year. You know, that's what, 14, 15% of the year full of happy already, before we've even put in birthdays and Christmas and New Year and Easter. You can turn it around that way round. And I've got now a permanent date with myself in my diary to do my cold water swimming. And then you meet people. So it's not just about the cold water swimming now. It's the fact that I meet up with 2 women and we're in the early stages of a friendship, and we have a natter. How are you? I'm great. How are you? I'm great. And then we have a little natter round as we swim. And it's quite funny, actually, because the boys say that they don't talk when they're swimming. They're just in that water and they're just going to swim to that boy and they're going to swim back. But all the girls most of the girls will breaststroke their way around having a chat. Where's your joy? Where's your pleasure? That's the question. Get it on that calendar first. Prioritize your happiness. Now, enough. If you've listened this far and we've talked about what success looks like from you, if you look at first episode 142 and then 119, we can start to look at it from a different angle. And what I really want to do is help you define success on your own terms. And of course, as I said, the same with a wealthy life. It'll be different for everyone on the planet. Only you can decide what success and a wealthy life looks for you. First, decide that you want something different. I think that's the first big step. Here I am. I want something different in my life. And what you're basically saying is that I want something different than is on this path that someone else set out for me. Could have been your parents, could have been society, could be school, could be your current employer. They've determined the path that you're on. Now, what you want to do is be proactive and reshape the way you think in order that you can not just do what you've been told, not just be that worker ant, but to be someone who can appreciate time over buying stuff, which actually costs you more time. You could be someone who values happiness over stuff. Now, that doesn't mean to say you can't have stuff. I'm not saying you can't have a house with nice things in it. But when you choose to acquire something that is nice, whatever that means to you, a nice thing for your home, for yourself, you're conscious that you're going to exchange time in order to earn money that you're then going to give to somebody else in return for this thing that you want. Whether it's a thing or an experience, I do it with the holidays. You might do it with whatever. If you're doing it consciously, then that's great. That's informed, that's conscious buying, conscious consumerism. And that's not eating away then at whatever you want for your life. That's not taking a dot off of your happy calendar. It's maybe putting a dot on your happy calendar the day that you bought that bag, the day that you booked that holiday. I can promise you that whatever your version of success is going to require effort. It will require some introspection because we've got to think about things for ourselves. And then it's going to require commitment to reshaping your mindset into this way of thinking. Joy, happiness, your calendar. I can set my mind to anything I want. What is it that I want? Here's the calendar that displays it. How am I going to go about that? How am I going to ensure that every day I'm working towards this? I'm going to be grateful. I might journal, or I might just do the gratitude exercises. And I am going to be thinking about these things. And when something comes along to distract me, I'm going to check whether it's an opportunity or a distraction. If it's a distraction, let it go because I know what I'm looking for. If something comes up for me, is it a question that I need to answer in order to be more successful, or is it something trying to hold me back? I absolutely believe that this compilation of signposts, if you like, towards podcasts that you can listen to will give you that clarity, that inspiration, and certainly the tools that you need to begin to start shifting your mindset. And of course, next week, as I mentioned, we're going to dive into the finances to complement this, understanding your financial mindset, because it's all well and good having the positive mindset and you've got your happy calendar. But if you don't master the money that lies behind this, then it's going to make your journey a lot longer. And it's very difficult to master the money if we haven't mastered the mindset first, because unless you understand the concepts that all of this is just thoughts, all of it is just thoughts, and you can choose to think anything you like, and whatever you think will probably be the way it is for you. And if you think it's daylight out there, you'll behave like it's daylight. And if you think that it's nighttime, you'll behave like it's nighttime. It creates your own reality of this planet that we share, and we could be sitting next to one another thinking completely different things and therefore experiencing this room in a completely different way. You need to understand that before we can get into the maths of it. So I did ask before, and I would please ask you to subscribe so that you don't miss next week. Please leave a review, whether you're on Spotify or iTunes, and please maybe share this episode or share it on Facebook Maybe share it with a child or a member of your family who really would benefit from thinking through what they want their wealthy lives to be. And until then, we're going to stay intentional and inspired and wealthy. And then I'm going to take you through, I think, a summary. Let me do a summary for you here. Let me wrap up this episode and leave you with the thought. So the thought is that creating your own wealthy life and being successful involves changing your mindset. And that is not a do one and done process. It's a journey. There's no shortage of resources to guide you along the way. And you know, within the Wealthy Life community, there's plenty of resources to support you. But in this last hour, I think I've highlighted maybe 15, 20 different podcasts that you can go through. That's nearly 10 hours of new content that you can go back through. You can dip into it if you like. You can move through it sequentially. You might pick out the ones that interest you most. I would suggest that you still come back to this and eventually work your way through all of those. There's no harm in hearing something twice. The idea being to reinforce this new way of thinking. You know, when I first started studying this stuff, neuro-linguistic programming, NLP, my family joked that I was in a cult. And I will admit that I was starting to think differently, and it was a big shift. And I think that that big shift maybe challenged them and the way they were thinking. And I'm not saying that I know everything. I'm not saying I have it all figured out. I'm not saying everything is perfect. But what I know for a fact, and what I'm saying to you, is that I've taken ownership of my life, of my decisions, and that everything I have in my life is a result of the decisions I've either taken or the decisions I have not taken. And there is no blame there. It's just a fact. I've either created this because I've done something, or I've created this life because I haven't done something. That's it. It's a fact. My family have come along as happy beneficiaries, maybe a little long-suffering observers of those decisions as well. I'll leave that for them to say. But the idea is that I'm the one writing my biography. I'm the one driving my car to success. And I know one thing for sure. I love my life. Could I buy a car? Yeah, I could buy a new car. Could I take another holiday? Absolutely, always. Invest in another property? Yes, of course. Do I really need more stuff in my life? Am I bothered about impressing you or impressing anyone? Not really. Because at the end of it, I cannot sit here and hope to impress all of you. I can't sit here and make you all happy. I can't sit here and make you all successful or wealthy or invest in property or do some mindset training. I can't make you do anything. All I can do, and the only one I can make do anything, is myself. And this is where I said this piece about family first or me first. I can just work on me. And if I work on me and I know that I am doing what makes me happy, and therefore I'm not stressed, that I'm on a path that I want to be on, not doing what somebody else wants me to do, and I'm going down this path, and my life is as good as it can be because I have created this life. I don't need more stuff, but if I choose to buy a greenhouse, a giant greenhouse, I can. That's fine. That is my choice to live my life. And all I want to offer you is the thought that forget what I'm doing, but you could create a life that you love. If I asked you the question, do you love your life? Would you answer a resounding yes? All I'm trying to do here, and you remember trying is not a good word. All I am doing here, all I want to do is to share what I've learned over that 16 years since I did my original NLP practice. Over 33 years ago, when my marriage broke down, that personal transformation journey that I've been on, my goal is simple. It's to help you see what's possible if you take control of your thoughts and your actions. And I think the last episode I think I want to point you to is episode 18, and it's called Are You a Creature of Habit? And understanding the habits that you have can help you understand the thoughts. And there might be some habits that you need to break in order to cultivate a mind that is set on supporting the goals that you want to achieve. Hope that makes sense. After 16 years, I don't do all of the exercises that I'm suggesting you do every day. I don't always wake up every morning and do my gratitude, or go to bed every evening and do my gratitude. I do have my alarm set at 3:33 every day, and I always answer that. But as soon as I feel a slight slip, I'm straight back in there into mindset mode, reminding of myself what it takes to be wealthy, what it takes to focus. And so really, I think that's encapsulated in episode 18. So take whatever resonates with you from this podcast. What's useful, start weaving it into your daily practice. If you've got children or grandchildren, it very definitely helps if you indoctrinate them while they're still young and malleable. My girls were teenagers, early teenagers, when I first started doing the NLP. And I always remember one sentence where one daughter wasn't feeling very happy, and I was full of my coaching self, and I offered her a suggestion, and she turned around and she said, "Don't you try that NLP stuff on me. It won't work." And before I could stop my mouth saying this, I turned around. Well, if that's your limiting belief, then it won't. I'm not completely sure how she didn't attack me at that point. So you can imagine the stress that my family's been under. This is a much calmer version that I am sharing with you. So take what resonates with you. Leave behind, for now, what doesn't feel right. And then the key is to come back to this episode in maybe a few more days, maybe in another couple of weeks, maybe after you've listened to next week's episode on the finances. Revisit these ideas again, look at the episode suggestions again, and maybe challenge your thoughts. See what's shifted, see what's not felt comfortable today, and then see if it feels more comfortable next week or the week after. Ultimately, I promise you that if you listen to this episode and then picked up every single one of those episodes that I suggested to you, and you listened to them all in their entirety, and you enacted on those suggestions in your own way, in a way that applied to you and was, I don't know, worked with what it was that you want to achieve, I guarantee you that this episode will have put a little bit more whoosh into your life and will have helped you to start to shape your life in your way. And that's it. My wish is that the insights that I've shared serve as tools to help you create that wealthy life of your own choosing. Thank you so much for spending time with me. And so until next week, when I'm going to bring you some of those hard, fast financial lessons with a touch of mindset again to complement the work that we've set about today. Have a truly wonderful holiday season, whatever you're doing. And remember, a wealthy life isn't just about money. It's about freedom and joy and the power to live your life on your terms. So Merry Christmas, and I will speak to you all again and see you next week. So that brings us to the end of this episode and almost to the end of 2024. I hope that our conversation today has given you new ways to think about mindset and how you can create the life you truly want. But before we go, finally, for the end of this episode, I'd like to share 3 insights with you that I really do think will hammer home that whoosh into your life. Because let's face it, who doesn't need a little bit more energy over this period? The first thing that I feel that I've really spoken to you about is questioning the roles and the labels that you find attached to yourself? Are you actually living in a box that society, maybe tradition, maybe your own beliefs have created for you? Or is it something of your choosing? And it quite possibly is not the second. So take a moment to ask yourself if the roles that you are taking on still serve you, or is it actually a time to redefine them on your terms? Your role in life is not set in stone, and you can rewrite it to match the goals and the values that you hold now. And then you might find that in another 10 or 15 years, you redefine your role again. And this also goes through a cycle, doesn't it? We're young, then we're focused on education, then we're focused on getting a job, then we're focused on getting a partner, then we're focused on getting a home, maybe having a family, then you move out the other side. Different roles at different times in your life is perfectly acceptable as long as you're the one writing them. So the second insight is really about auditing your thoughts. Is this your thought or is this someone else's thought? Whose voice are you hearing? Yours, your parents, your teacher, society's? Spend a little bit of time identifying any of those voices, those limiting beliefs, or sometimes even unhelpful thoughts that might creep into your mind. And as soon as you spot one, look at how you can replace that with something more important. And when you spot one, look at how you can replace that with something more empowering and supportive that actually aligns with where you want to go. Don't be rude. Don't be dismissive to the voice. It's always a case of, thank you very much for bringing that to my attention. And then you either go and find the information and let yourself know it, or you explain why that old belief doesn't serve you. And those exercises were in episode 18, all about gratitude, grounding yourself, and of course, the 333 that really, that alarm is about personal accountability. What have you done today towards your goals? And so when you've got to this stage where you're aware of the role that you've taken on in life and you're happy with it, that you're aware of when this voice pops up, the purpose that it is serving, and you are retraining it to align with your goals, you're then in a position where I believe it's this point that you can really start to define what a wealthy life means to you. It's about your vision, not somebody else's. Maybe it's about more time with your family, or maybe it's about financial freedom. Maybe it's about leaping into something that you've always wanted to do. Whatever it is, you can start to take small and consistent steps towards that vision. And here's the bonus. If you reflect on these insights regularly, what role am I in? Whose voice am I hearing? And what life am I building for myself? And take them into your morning routine. If you're going to journal, you can write them in your journal. Maybe you are brave enough to discuss them with people you love and trust, and bring them with you. Poor Bob hears my stuff so often, poor man. That's why I like sharing it with you. It's given him a 1 hour rest. But the more practice you take, the more momentum you'll gain, the closer you'll get to that life you want, a wealthy life of your choosing. So until the next time we speak, I hope that you're going to spend a week living the life that you want, jumping out of bed with joy every day, and learning and living and loving every step of your journey. Thank you very much for listening, and I will speak to you next week. So, once again, Merry Christmas.